so in this video recording, we are going to be going over diacriticals. Diacritical marks are the little things that you put on a word in order to understand how the pronunciation of that word is going to work. And as per usual, we are going to have words for you to put in, and the whole reason why we're doing it, this is where Bosa is absent, and I cannot, even though usually when 10% of the class is absent, I cannot afford, because this is the week of August 24th, to delay yet another day. So we need to make sure that we get through our diacriticals. That brings us to our very first word, and that, of course, is going to be delivered to us by Aldoc. So here we come. So put it in, get that 3100.
Your first word is diacritical. D-I-A-C-R-I-T-I-C-A-L.
Leave off the S. Alrighty. So the first thing that you need to know when it comes to diacriticals is that there are these things called breathers, or if you would like, they are called breathing marks, or if you would like, they are called aspirations and non-aspirations. So let's talk about breathers. So, what's going on? Alrighty. So every single word that begins with a vowel in Latin, so if I look over here, there's some Greek words that are over there, and I'll choose the very first one, alright? And that word is this. There it is. And so, if it begins with a vowel or a diphthong, you are going to have to put either what is going to be known as a rough breathing or a smooth breathing to let us know how to pronounce it. Now, sometimes this is referred to as either aspirated or unaspirated. Now, the aspirated form is like a little bitty C above that first vowel. Now, when it comes to diphthongs, all diacritical marks go above the second letter of the diphthong. So here we have the word either hynigma, and that diacritical rough breathing or aspiration tells us that we make the H sound, hynigma, or it, of course, would be a smooth, which is going to be the backward C. And as a matter of fact, that is what you find. And so, we pronounce this word not hynigma, but rather einigma. You also see this smooth breathing on the word for human being. It is not anthropos, but rather anthropos. And so every single time, every time a word begins with either a vowel or with a diphthong, you've got to have either that rough breathing or that smooth breathing. An example in which it can mean the difference in what the word means is in the words in and the word hin. I know to pronounce the top one as in because it has a smooth or unaspirated diacritical, and the bottom one is hin. This is the Greek word that means in, as in like I walk in the room, and this is the Greek word that is the neuter for one, and it is where you get the term hendiades, which literally means 2 through 1. Now I will admit that I've forgotten who our second person is, and she's going to whisper to me what it is so that... Okay, there it is. Alrighty, so that brings us to the second item before we move on, and it's going to be delivered to us by Curiosa. So Curiosa, come up to the front and tell us what the second word is.
Your second word is breathing. B-R-E-A-T-H-I-N-G. Breathing.
Very good. My favorite part was when I saw her eyes dart around and trying to remember exactly how to obviously spell it. And so if we would, please, if somebody could get up and use that little handle and turn the camera to where it comes over here. Hopefully everything is still. Can you see me over here?
It's angry.
That's all righty. Can you see me?
Yeah.
All righty. So when we look at the passage, which is the first one that we're going to encounter, here you can see ho with a rough breathing, atenaios with a smooth breathing, esten, which is a smooth breathing, oike, which is a smooth breathing, ho, which is a rough breathing, uk, which is a smooth breathing, and so forth and so on. If we look at the very last word, ikanon. And so again, with that rough breathing, that is the C, or the little thing that looks like a C, it tells us that we should make the ha sound on the very start of it. So, that is it. So we leave behind our breathings, but I will say, people all the time leave them off. Every single time you ever write a Greek word, you have to have it there. Now the Greeks themselves, and if you would obviously follow me back over to the board, that would be most advantageous. No, whomever was willing to obviously jump up. Who was the person that it turned to begin with?
It was.
It was you? Alright, so I come back over here, and thanks so much. Fantastico. So, does everybody understand breathing? They let you know how much air to come out. When do you have a breathing mark on the word?
When it's a diphthong,
Diphthong
or vowel.
vowel. However, there is one consonant that also can feature a breathing. Does anybody know what it is?
E.
No.
It's a vowel.
Sky.
It is the letter rho. So you can say rho or pro. Like, for example, a particular type of arthritis.
Rheumatoid.
That is exactly right.
Yeah, well,
Or, obviously, what is the kind of meter or the sort of syncopation of music?
Rhythm.
The rhythm is exactly
I
right.
mean, I'm
So, there it is. Yes, like on number 31 that is over there. You cannot see it on the camera in the video, but do you see number 31? Pronounce that word, please.
room.
That's it. That's it, everybody. Fruma. Fruma. Fantastic. All right, so that takes care of breathings. We're all good to go there. The second thing that we need to talk about is accentuation. All right. Every single Greek word is going to have one of three separate accents on it. Now, the three accents, which are going to, don't write it down as of yet, the three accents, which are going to look like that, or look like that, or look like that on the top of the word, used to be an indication of the tonality of the word. So, do you understand what it means when I say that certain languages of Eastern Asia are tonal languages?
Like Vietnam, right?
Well, yes. I used to teach a student who was of Vietnamese ancestry, and I remember she was on the bus coming home from Fall Forum one year, and as she was reading this book, it was written in Vietnamese, and she had these very same diacritical marks. And what those diacritical marks told to her is that on the particular word, that when it is like that, you are going to make your sound of voice go up in pitch. When it looks like that, you'll make the sound of your voice go down in pitch. And when it looks like that, it'll go up and then down in the pitch. So, for example, and I'm going to do a horribly bad job of this. And for what reason am I going to do a horribly bad job?
You're English speaking.
Yes, it would be something along the lines of ba, ba, ba. And so you can hear the pitch of the voice go up, the pitch of the voice go down, and the pitch of the voice go up and down. That's what it was originally in Greek. However, now, what the accents are going to do for us is that they tell us to where we are going to put the emphasis, as in the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? It's ictus in Latin. The stress, as it were. So,
Do you think in Latin or English?
both. But, at any rate.
That's crazy.
That's interesting.
That's weird.
So,
I feel like you're just saying that.
Dude, I
No,
because
sometimes-
he knew the word for it in Latin. Like, I feel like I never think of like a Norwegian word before I think of an English word.
well, sometimes it's just that way. At any rate. So, first and foremost, you must understand that the accent can only occur on the last three syllables of a Greek word. These syllables all have names to them. So, I'm going to write down the name of the father of our family. Diacriticals. So, if we all say it together, and let's do it, everybody. Diacriticals.
Diacriticals.
How many syllables are his name?
5.
5. You have D, Chi, O, Olis. Diacriticals. So, the only syllables that an accent can go on is going to be this one right here, this one right here, and that one right there. And of course, who has our third word? Just raise your hand. All right, and I think I remember yours, so we'll get to it momentarily. Now, when you look at Diacriticals, the last three syllables, which obviously are underlined with arrows, have particular terms. You need to learn these terms because that's what I use. I don't say the last syllable, I don't say the next to last syllable, I don't say the third syllable from the end. Instead I use these terms because that's what we do in life. The last syllable is known as the ultima, or the ultimate. You're just anglicizing it when you call it the ultimate. This one is going to be known as the penultimate, or penultima. And the reason why pen is that this is from the Latin word pine, which means almost, and so therefore it is the almost last. And then the third from the end is going to be known as the antepenultimate, or ultima. So those are the only syllables in a Greek word that A, are going to be able to have an accent, and B, actually have a particular name. Now I'm off of the camera right now, but if we look at Diacriticals, the accent that you can see is on that right there. And so therefore, it tells us how to pronounce it. Let's all say it please, everybody. Diacriticals.
Diacriticals.
Whereas originally it would have told us that the pitch would be going up. If the accent were here, it would be, everybody, Diacriticals.
Diacriticals.
And if the accent were here, it would be Diacriticals.
Diacriticals.
There it is. And so that tells you where the actual stress is going to go. Does everybody understand?
Yeah.
All right. So, am I good to erase this right here? All righty. There are three accents. They all have a particular name, and they go in a particular spot. The first and most common of all accents is the acute accent. The acute accent is a little line of positive slope that is going to obviously go above the syllable. And so that brings us to our third word that you can put in for that easy and free 100, delivered to us by Sagax.
Your third word is acute. A-C-U-T-E. Acute.
Yes, A-C-U-T-E.
Cute.
Now, the acute accent can occur on all syllables.
Oh my gosh.
So it can occur on all syllables. So if I were to give you the word for man,
What? I thought we just said it can only
Yeah.
occur on the last
Yeah.
three.
no, that's what I mean. Like when I say all syllables, either the antepenultimate, the penultimate, or the penultimate. Yes, not any before that actually. So if we say our word here, and we put our acute accent right there, which is correct, we will pronounce it, everybody, anthropos.
Anthropos.
But what happens is that if we were to put it into the dative singular case, the long nature of the omega pulls the accent down towards it like a tractor beam, and now it will move there, and it will be, everybody, anthropo.
Anthropo.
And it will never be like this, but if it were on the very last syllable, it would be, let's all say it together, please, what anthropo.
Anthropo.
And so do you see how the stress is where the accent is going to fall in our pronunciation therein? Okay, so does everybody understand the acute? It is a positive slope and it can appear on any of the syllables. So again, and you cannot see it on the camera necessarily, I apologize, but oh well. When you are looking here, you can see that the acute is by far the most common of the accents. It is able to be on all three of the name syllables, and it is going to occur everywhere. All right, the next one that we are going to have, number 2, is going to be known as the grave. Looks like grave, but it is pronounced grave. It is going to be a line that has a negative slope to it.
You die, you go down.
If that helps you to
Dear
remember,
grade.
by all means. The grav can only appear on the ultima. And it only appears in a certain circumstance. So if I could get a volunteer to pan the camera over, we're going to take a look at the passage that is the first one we encounter in our textbook. Now, I'm going to try and make it a little bit bigger so that we can easily see it. There you go. And hopefully you can make it out. The grav accent is only going to appear when the acute would occur on the ultimate syllable and another word occurs without there being intervening punctuation. By that I mean, if we take a look at the word that is right there, and let's do say it everybody, mikros.
Mikros.
Don't say mikros, but again everybody, mikros.
Mikros.
That accent is allowed to stay an acute accent because what do you have between mikros and macros?
A comma.
A comma. And since there is intervening punctuation, it will obviously stay as an acute. But when we look at, obviously, the exact same situation on the next word, let's do say it everybody, macros.
Macros.
Do you see how there is immediately a word following it, and there is no intervening punctuation? That accent, if I were to pull macros out and just merely put it in a list, that accent would not be a grav. It would be an acute. The only reason as to why it is a grav is that it is in context, another word immediately follows it, and there is no intervening punctuation. Do you understand? All gravs must be in context. If it's just a list of vocabulary, you would never have a grav. If it's just a list of vocabulary, what will that accent always look like?
Acute.
It will always look acute.
Do you pronounce them the same?
Yes, here, if I were to take it out of context, it would still be, everybody, macros,
Macros.
and it's the same thing here, everyone, macros.
Macros.
It's pronounced the exact same way. It's just a matter of, in context, another word started that it then
Okay.
caused it.
So what are the two little things that you have to have?
The two little things that you have to have.
The
Oh.
rules.
Yeah.
Oh,
No punctuation.
if it is on the ultima,
Uh-huh.
and another word follows,
Mm-hmm.
without there being intervening punctuation of some sort,
So any word, as long as there's not a comma?
correct, or a period, or a
Yeah.
semicolon. Now, you can point out what seems like a contradiction to what I just said,
Okay, great.
and that would be right here. Do you see how it looks like you have gar? It is on the ultimate syllable. There's another word that follows, and there's no intervening punctuation.
Yes.
The solution is the fact that estin is always an enclitic. By that, I mean that you don't understand it as far as linguistically or metrically as being two words, gar and estin. They are functioning as one word, garestin.
Like a periphrastic, kind of?
Well, like if I were to say, sextus est puer. It says sextus is a boy. In Latin, the way by which you would turn it into a question is that you add the enclitic in e. Do you see how that works? It's just that in Latin, the enclitic, you actually attach it to the other word.
Oh.
Here, it seems as though it's detached, but it is always attached. Now, a rule I did not give to you, obviously, but is one that is applicable, is that words in Greek can have one accent and one accent alone. But, again, a contradiction to this rule, at least it seems, because we obviously have the accent over the iota of that diphthong and an accent over the omicron, that is the ultima. It just happens to be that that accent belongs to estin. And because all verbal accents are recessive, it's trying to get to the front of the word. And so that is all clear, and you understand that contradiction and why it's not really a contradiction at all. I understand. It's difficult. Greek is for big boys and girls. It has rules and all kinds of junk going on it that simplistic Latin does not have. But oh well, that is neither here nor there. So again, you have the acute accent that you find right here, and it can appear all over the place. It can appear on the very first syllable, and by the first syllable I mean like the farthest from the end, the antepenultimate. It can appear on the penultimate, and it can appear on the ultimate. Whereas, again, the grave is only going to be on the ultimate. So here we see a grave, it has to be the last syllable, and it is. Here we see a grave, it has to be the last syllable, and so forth and so on. Alright, so if you would, please pan over for our third and final accent. Don't worry, people watching at home. There we go. Now, the last accent that occurs is going to be known as the circumflex. The circumflex accent is going to occur only on the penultima and the ultima. You will never, ever, 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 ever find a circumflex on the antepenultima. And the circumflex, oh, I didn't even make the sign, but here it is. It's going to look like that right there. So here I will take the word that means food. And here you can see is the circumflex, which goes up and down. Originally it meant that when you were pronouncing this tonally, you should say sitos. But now it just tells me that we say, everybody, sitos,
Sitos.
instead of sitos.
Sitos.
And so it is telling us that is where the accentuation should be. So let's practice a couple of this. Oh, there it is. Pronounce that word, please.
Lanros.
Kleros.
Close, everybody. Kleros.
Kleros.
And a. And so therefore you can see the circumflex that is there. So that is it when it comes to accents. How many accents are there?
3.
3. Where's the only spot where you can find any accent? The ultimate, penultimate, and antepenultimate, which is the last, next to last, and third from the last. And obviously there are certain rules as to when they appear, most particularly a rule concerning the grave that you can see there. Alright, everybody understand? Alright, and you're going to come to learn that these accents are important. They're the bane of the Greek student's existence, but they are important. Like, for example, if I would go and give you, and I'm going to choose a couple of verbs from over here, and let's go with, here's a good one. He, she, or it works versus he, she, or it speaks. So say the first one, please, everybody. Pone.
Pone.
And everybody, lege.
Lege.
Because I have a circumflex accent over the ending a, it lets me know this is an epsilon contract verb. And that really what's going on is that there's an extra epsilon in there as a part of the stem. You don't know what that means, but you need to know it. You're going to need to know it for the National Greek exam. They are going to say, this is an example of a, and you're going to then identify it as an epsilon contract. And how are you going to know that it is an epsilon contract?
We'll have it all.
Circumflex.
Oh.
That's how you know. And I'll explain why and so forth and so on. Alright, so there's one more thing that we need to cover in this video so that we can have all of our diacritical marks down, and that is...
Punctuation.
Correct! It is punctuation. Now, there are essentially 4 or 5 punctuation marks used in classical Greek like what we are going to be learning. 2 of which I'm going to say zilcho about. And why am I going to say zilcho about 2 of them?
Because we already know
Yes.
comma and period.
And that is indeed correct. The comma is going to be just like a comma, and it is going to function just like a comma in our language. As a matter of fact, do not pan the camera, but as I go over here and cover the items that, oh yikes, there we go. Over a little bit more, there we go. I thought that it was up here, but the Greek word comma is what gives us the word comma. I thought it was on there, but unfortunately it is not. The second thing that we all know is
Period.
a period. A period is a period is a period. And it functions the exact same way as to what we have. However, Then you have numbers 3, numbers 4, and then numbers 5. For Greek, a semicolon, which for us in English looks like a dot with a comma right below. In Greek, it is only going to be a raised dot. And so, you do not have to pan over, but we are looking at the first passage that we encounter, and I'm going to ask you, where is a semicolon? There is one right there. Here's a period, here's a semicolon.
Logo.
Here is a period, here is a semicolon. So it is merely going to be a dot in the middle of that said line. Next we have, anybody know the next?
Question mark.
Question mark is exactly right. So it's only 4 that we're going to deal with. So the question mark in Greek is going to look like a semicolon for us. So if ever you are asking a question, you use then that semicolon. So I don't think in the first chapter there are any questions being asked whatsoever, but once we get to chapter 1 beta, and chapter 1 is always divided into the alpha chapter passage and then the beta chapter passage, we will and then at that point to see obviously question marks as explained like that. So our fourth and final word, as delivered to us by Salsa, and thanks so much Barbosa, hope that you are on the mend in whatever sort of ailment you suffer from, and that you have benefited from obviously watching this and getting a free 100.
Oh, your fourth word is semicolon. S-E-M-I-C-O-L-O-N.
Yes, that is correct. So, thank you so much for watching. These are your diacriticals that you need. Breathing, accents, punctuation, and hopefully we can muddle our way through a passage. Thanks so much for watching. If someone would please hit the little record button and make it stop.